Chief Programming Officer, Chief DJ Officer, and many other roles that she wears. So thank you so much. So, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the culmination of about 3 months, 2.5 months of work. We're super excited to have all of you here. And then also, of course, we have some special guests, some folks that you collaborate, you're working with students in different roles and capacities. So thank you very much for joining us. And before we kick it off, or just kind of some welcoming or open remarks, Stephanie.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Oscar. Thank you so much for organizing this and bringing everybody together. Amanda, Michael, for doing all that facilitation and outreach. So I just wanted to welcome everybody and let you know that the work that we've been doing here is really building on, I think, the work of counselors through your networks, through different programs with strong workforce. And, the work that we're doing is really kind of building on each of those building blocks for counseling for career success. This was really kind of inspired by the work of counselors in several previous kind of convenings around things like projects like Talent Ed, really thinking about case management approaches and working with community-based organizations like Hope Builders and BPSOS, really thinking about how we can embed employability skills into our counseling courses. So there's a real kind of track record around all of this work, but it's really been led and developed. The inspiration has been through counselors, counselor-driven, around how do we build practices around career readiness, cultural competency, and move those practices forward so we can think about it on a regional basis so that we have kind of a level playing field of practices that we can use to meet those students who are most in need. So this is where Aspira Consulting came in. I remember meeting Oscar and Angelica both at a CCC AOE conference. And, it didn't take long for us to kind of get started in thinking about how can we start to think about scaling this as a region. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Oscar, to lead us forward for the session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. And yes, I do remember that meeting at the conference. And also, of course, I also want to give credit to Amanda. She was the one who initially made the introduction. And I joke around, but there is some truth. I consider Amanda the godmother of like OC, the madrina. Like she knows everyone, and she's amazing. It's no wonder, Amanda, that you received that recognition not too long ago. So yes, thank you as well to Amanda. So everyone, here's the agenda. They told us that we needed to be organized, but no, just to keep us on track here, I want to share with you the agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit here shortly about what does it mean to be culturally relevant, and then we're going to give a quick overview on the projects, but really, what I'm really excited, and I think all of us are, is to really hear from our panelists today because they have taken the Empowering Scholars Program and have been working with different demographics of students. So we're going to hear from them on the outcomes and challenges, and also we'll have an opportunity to have a Q&A with them, and then we'll wrap it up with closing remarks. So let me start off here. I'm sometimes asked the question is, what is cultural career competency? And those of you that have been through my training or that know me, I like to keep things just simple. I'm also a very visual person. I think you too, Amanda, if I remember correctly, very visual. And I share this quote here from the late Steve Jobs. I mean, we're up in the San Francisco Bay Area, so Steve Jobs is like the Thomas Edison of our time. I mean, everyone, likes Steve Jobs, and he did amazing things. But he had this quote that he shared during the Stanford University commencement, where it says, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." And why am I bringing this up? Because first of all, his quote is about always being open to new ideas, not considering yourself like you're the expert, always being, seeking, not being complacent and so forth. And that makes sense. However, it makes sense because for many of us, professionals been there, done that. There's that cultural context understanding of where he's coming from. But imagine sharing this quote to a student, basic needs, stay hungry. That doesn't make any sense to that student. Or to sharing this, telling a student, the Oscar Garcia from a long time ago, Oscar, stay foolish, keep messing up in school. No, that doesn't make sense. There has to be this cultural context or understanding from us, the career counselors, professionals, in understanding who our audiences, the student demographics. And that applies also as it relates to the incredible, amazing career readiness tools that are out there that we teach to students, whether it's, putting together your resume, your LinkedIn profile, handshake interviews, et cetera, and so forth, networking, in that in order for there to really be an impact with students, whether they're first gen or come from historically marginalized groups, there has to be that cultural relevancy piece of it. And to add that cultural relevancy to all the other tools that we're providing, then we are able to truly empower students, help them gain their confidence, help them develop that powerful career narrative by going back and helping them embrace their journey, translating that journey into that powerful career narrative. And so again, just to keep it in very simple terms, this is what cultural career competency means.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So we wanted just to provide a quick overview of what our Empowering Scholars Train the Trainer program is, just so for those of you just tuning in and really wondering what it is we're doing here. So first off, one of the amazing services that Aspida Consulting provides is our Train the Trainer program. Like Oscar mentioned, we are very passionate about putting the cultural relevancy back into career services. And what does that look like? Well, you can see the topics that are listed here. Um, a small cohort of counselors here went through this training program back in March. Sorry, I had to really think about that. And putting that culturally relevancy back into career services, what does that look like? That looks like addressing the socio-emotional needs of students. That looks like understanding and showing them to appreciate their personal journey and build that confidence. So you'll see here, these are some of the topics that our counselors went through: turning adversity into positive career traits, demystifying networking, how to overcome imposter syndrome, which is personally my favorite. And then if we go to the next slide here. So like I said, our program has three main goals: helping students embrace their journey, harness their cultural wealth, and translate their journey into powerful career narrative. What we've experienced, and I'm sure all of you have also experienced with your students, is they tend to have a deficit mindset and they disqualify themselves from opportunities because they don't see themselves as having that traditional work experience or as you know, fitting within this framework of success. And so we're trying to dismantle that deficit mindset and empower these students so that they can see that just because they have a non-traditional background, just because they have overcome X, Y, and Z obstacles, they have value, they have transferable skills. And it's really I use the example of polishing and making sure that they see that their past is it's a diamond and that they can continue to succeed. It's just a matter of them understanding what it success looks like for them. And so that is really the main premise of our Train the Trainer program that these counselors went through. And then I'll hand it over to Oscar to perhaps explain. I think it might be on the next slide here. Or would you like me to go into this too as well, Oscar?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So as part of implementing our Train the Trainer program. We understand, what is it, Rome wasn't built in a day, neither was, completely reshaping how we do things. And so we really wanted to make it so that we were able to begin helping implement our Train the Trainer program in whatever capacity you work with students. We understand that there's, some of you are more one-on-one, maybe it's more of a group setting, maybe it's more incorporating our overall curriculum into your instruction. And so right here, you'll see what we had our counselors do for this implementation portion is really identify 5 students and help them develop their career narrative. You may be wondering what a career narrative is. I'll give a very high level quick overview. It's that student's journey, it's their vision, where they want to go, kind of where they've been, and having it almost as built in as an elevator pitch, or it could also be known as your career journey. And so it's working with students to do that. And, easier said than done. I'm very much oversimplifying that. But that's step 1 here in really getting the curriculum off the ground. And then next slide, please. And then our career narrative. So this is an example of what I was speaking about earlier. The career narrative, you'll see at the very top, I know the print is small, but this is an example of a student that we worked with in the past who had gone through our career readiness, our Empowering Scholars program. And you'll see that the students' answers to the questions, your why, personality traits, career journey, and vision, it's very, one-worded answers, very much fill in the blank. And then you'll see a revised version at the bottom, which is definitely more lengthy, but it's also gives more personality, gives more insight into that student. And so again, the whole goal here for this project in implementing our Empowering Scholars program was to see this before and after, to work with students so that we can see where they want to go, but more importantly, really getting them to reframe their past and their journey. And then I believe we have the next slide.
There we go. Yes, me too. And Stephanie, do you want to talk about this, or do you want me to? Just a quick overview.
Yeah, no, just I'll introduce it maybe, Oscar, and then you can jump in and talk about the more in-depth session. So,
Sure.
We got started by really coming together as a planning team. So that was Amanda, Michael, Aspira, myself, and we also brought on Karen Miles, who's done a lot of work with us around developing publications, and she's going to be helping us develop a publication for this work. So, we got started with a face-to-face Train the Trainer program that we had here at Coast District. And then we set up several sessions that were coaching sessions. So maybe, Oscar, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, so again, as Stephanie said, and you're seeing here on the screen here, the quick timeline for this project. The key thing here that I really I found super helpful, and thank you, Stephanie, for your leadership, and again also Amanda and Michael too as well for guiding us here, but is that in addition to the training, we and all the counselors committed to what I'm calling a phase 2. And you can see here where phase 2 was identifying a pilot program, the methodology to use based on the different student demographics, how do you promote awareness for the program, and then of course monitoring the effectiveness and outcome. And along this journey, the end goal was to put together a final presentation, which again, you're going to hear from some of our career counselors here. But along each phase, it was like we were scaffolding. So we were guiding everyone with what to complete for that particular phase. And then at the end with that final presentation, it would simplify the process of just gathering all the information and so forth. But simple, effective, And the second phase is we met online too, as well. So that kind of eased, a little bit of the time constraint that oftentimes occurs here. Okay, so we're going to move on because again, I'm super excited. All of us are super excited to hear from our amazing panelists here. And what we're going to do is, so we have Annette Kelly Whittle with Santa Ana Workforce Development Board, Cynthia Orozco with Irvine Valley College, Jody Williams with BPSOEs, Paulo Vargas, who already is famous on the Costco magazine here with Coastline College, Rachel Marchioni, also with Coastline, and then Angel Torres with Saddleback College. So why don't we start? We'll just go left to right. So Annette, let me stop sharing and oh, there we go. Okay, you're okay. So we'll start with you, Annette.
Hi, everyone. So my name's Annette Kelly Whittle, and I work with the Orange Workforce Alliance. So I work with the 3 workforce development boards in the Orange County region, and more closely on this project with the Santa Ana Workforce Development Board.
Awesome. Cynthia, there you go.
Hi there, everybody. Good morning. My name is Cynthia Orozco. I'm one of the career counselors at IVC. And I do both working individually with students in the Career Center. We facilitate workshops year-round to our different student demographics. And I'm also an instructor and teach several counseling classes. So happy to share what I learned.
Thank you. Jody.
Hi, my name is Jody Williams. I am the Adult Education Program Manager at BPSOS. We are a nonprofit community-based organization who serves the larger Vietnamese population in Orange County and LA County. I help students with ESL and citizenship preparation courses, and 2 is my health program manager. She helps our students, clients, and community members with health programs, referrals, resources, and just so that they can meet their basic needs and continue on in their college and career pathway.
Thank you, Jody. Angel?
Hi, everyone. My name is Angel Torres. I work at Saddleback as a general counselor and also in transitioning students from the HSC, which is the high school equivalency program, into the credit side for career technical programs and or transfer to the university.
Awesome. Thank you. Pablo?
Well, Paulo Marquez, Coastline College, Career Services, and CTE Counseling.
Okay. And Rachel?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Marchioni. I'm the Department Chair of Counseling at Coastline College.
Thank you. Thank you. So, and then we'll go back to you, and if you can start sharing.
Okay, so with the counseling project for us, we worked with the youth with the Workforce Development Board at Santa Ana. The youth were going through a work experience program, basically where they start off through the program going through some employment readiness workshops, and then we transition them into working with an employer in the Orange County region. And so these individuals, what we were able to do is take 5 of those individuals as a cohort and work with them through the exercises in developing their career mapping journey. As a part of our process, the individuals were able to be paid during that since they were part of our work experience program. So it might be a little bit different than some of the other programs, but we had 2 in-person sessions where on 2 different Mondays where they came in for a couple of hours and we started to go through the exercises. And I think that the youth, it took a little bit for them to kind of get comfortable, start to open up. We were also able to kind of share our own personal journeys, which I did this along with David at Santa Ana. And so there was the 2 of us together that did this, and we have varying stories, but it's always nice to have a couple of different perspectives when sharing with the students, hoping that they can relate to some of what we said. And they as well were able to kind of share a little bit about themselves in that first meeting. I think that some of them had already were working their way towards applying for college and had done some work around just their life story in general. So I think this just added another layer to that of helping them improve upon that. And as for some, it was the first time really delving into anything to where they really had to kind of share their story. And then, during their time, we had them go back and do homework. So before we even came into the first session, we sent them the prompts and we asked them to work on their narrative. So then after we went through the exercises and we sent them home with homework to rework their narrative, and came back on the second day, and we followed up with the talking about imposter syndrome, as well as the networking and developing that social capital. I think for me, my favorite was probably talking about social capital and the importance of that. And I think especially when working with populations that may have some types of barriers or didn't necessarily come from backgrounds where there are key relationships that they can build upon, I think that social capital is a very important subject that really can help propel somebody. I mean, if you can really start to develop those networks and draw upon, whether those are your professors or, people, it could be church, trying to help them identify who could be a part of that network, right? Who can I work with on that? And so I think that was a very important piece, helping them to understand my own life story in that, social capital played a huge role, I think, in my life, which, my dad had a lot of, and it helped me, and so from there, I've learned the importance of that myself. So I was able to share that with them. And then it culminated into them submitting their final narratives and everything, so which we are still going through and compiling. And then during their homework time, we also were able to pay them for the time that they spent outside of the classroom as well. So I think that there's a little bit of incentive there too. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Annette. And I saw a comment where I think it was Angelica. She's like, "Pay to answer questions, sign me up." I love it. Hey, food and money are great incentives, okay?
They are.
No, thank you, Annette. And by the way, everyone, we are going to have some time after the panelists speak here, and I'll ask them some questions. But we will have some time for Q&A. But in the meantime, though, if you do have a question that comes up when any of our panelists speak, just put it in the chat. We have, Amanda and Kalika and other folks that are monitoring the chat, and we can always come back to your questions, okay? So thank you. Thank you, Annette. Cynthia?
Yes. So what I did was I took this curriculum and I implemented it in my classroom, so in group settings. So I'll be talking about two different ways that I put it into practice. One on my own through my classes, and the other one in collaboration with Fritzy on a project that we're working on through the Career Center. So going through the trainings and going through the information really, really inspired me and motivated me. A lot of the content that we talk about reminds me of Yoso's community cultural wealth model, for those of you that are familiar with it, which teaches us that there's a lot of strength in places where we may not traditionally see them as strengths, right? Like having to translate for our parents or having to help our family members navigate like offices that they don't know. So I took a lot of this understanding along with helping students reframe their perceptions of the skill set they had as first-generation students, as first-time students, as immigrant students, how to identify their strengths. So I put it into practice in 3 different classes. My college success strategies class, which is a dual enrollment course. There's sophomores all the way up to students finishing up their last year in community college, ready to transfer. I put it into place in my career exploration class. There's a lot of first-year students, a couple international students, students that were in their second year as well. And then the last place I put it into practice was in my introduction to college course, which is dual enrollment at a continuation high school. There was a mixture of juniors and seniors. So I did different things in each group. One project that I did was I had students create a life journey of a physical map of significant memories or lessons that they that they've gone through up to this point. I also had them write poems about who they were and different important pieces growing up culturally in their home, family members, events, traditions that were significant to their journey. I also had another group of students create elevator speeches. This one was really cool because some of the students, this was their first semester in college, and they're like, what? I have to introduce myself to people. And I was like, yes, we're going to do this. And I was preparing them for a job fair that we were going to have on campus. And I challenged them to think of their strengths in a different way. For example, one of my students said, well, I don't have any achievements. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, did you graduate high school? He's like, yes, I did graduate high school. Okay, that's an achievement. I'm like, how did high school go? He's like, well, I barely passed. It was not a good thing. And I'm like, so what you're telling me then is that you kept pushing though, right? You kept pushing, you're persistent, you made it to college, you made it to class, you're asking me questions, right? So you're taking initiative. And these are all skills. These are all transferable skills that you can talk about to introduce yourself. You can say, hey, I'm Ryan. You know, I'm really self-motivated. When things are hard, I find solutions for myself. There you go. That's an achievement, right? So it was really interesting helping them come up with creative ways, culturally relevant ways, right? I didn't introduce them to that language, but helping them translate their experiences into valuable skills, giving them the language, laying it out, and having them practice with each other. One student actually had to go to a conference that weekend, and she practiced her speech within that psychology conference that she was out up in San Francisco. And she was so grateful that we got to do it. And she said, I was super nervous, but it just worked out so perfect that I at least had a way of explaining myself and talking about some of the things that I did. And the last kind of assignment that I did with my other class was I had them do career research. And this was also very interesting. It was in my continuation high school, where students are really in this class. They want to finish, right? They want to finish high school. They want to get these credits. And they had a lot of misconceptions of what is required for some career options they were interested in. One student in particular said, well, I want to be a pediatrician, but I had no idea I have to do this much school. I don't know if I can do it. Like, I'm barely making it through high school. So again, challenging that thought process, trying to identify different skills. I'm like, well, again, you're graduating. Why is it that you want to be a pediatrician? What is it that you like about it? And we started to talk about some of the things that excite her and get her motivated. And through that activity, some of the students said that they feel more motivated than ever, like to finish high school, to go to college, to give it a shot. Even one student, he works at a butcher shop with his family, and they have a family-run business. I know, he said he learned how to cut a pig's head. I was like, whoa, like that's a skill. And then he's like, I don't need college. And I mentioned, yeah, you might not need it, right? You're learning a specific skill, but how does your family manage finance for your company? Who does that for you all? And he mentioned his dad did it. And I said, well, here's where college can help you. Maybe you can take an Excel class that teaches you how to really manage those finances and really maximize the work that you do with your family. And that's just one semester, right? And he helping him find the connection between his goals, his strengths, his interests, and how we can use college to his advantage. So in summary, I was super motivated. I did a lot of things. I feel that students were able to really put into practice these exercises because I was vulnerable. There was a lot of trust in the class. Whatever I asked them to do, I did it as well. And I think it helped that environment. So in talking to Fritzy, we're super excited to create a cohort model within the career centers, something similar to Career Launch, and walk the students through these exercises and service the larger IVC community. So that's it. Those are some things that we did.
Oh, that's just it, Cynthia. That's just it. No big deal. No, that's awesome. Cynthia and Annette, I told you, everyone, like, I seriously have just been dying to hear from the group here. But so far, what both of you have done is amazing. And I want you, everyone, to pick up on how this program can be adapted to different scenarios, whether one-on-ones, groups, or and so forth. So thank you, Cynthia. And again, thank you, Annette. And we're going to move on to Jody.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so I guess I'll start with my dad joke just to calm my nerves. This will be more for me than you. No, I'm kidding. Why did the man get fired from his job at the orange juice company?
The orange juice company. I just had orange juice for breakfast. Okay, so. Oh God.
Because he couldn't concentrate. All right.
I was gonna say because he was sour or something.
Oh, that's a good one. A good one.
I'm terrible at jokes, so I like yours better.
Okay.
Thanks, Jody.
You're welcome. So my name is Jody Williams. I work with Tran. We co-manage programs at BPSOS, Boat People SOS. We have branches nationwide, but we are located in Orange County, California. We provide health programs, resources, services, referrals to clients and community members and students in Orange County and LA. We serve the older Vietnamese adult population. They have limited English level skills, and they come here. A lot of them came here as refugees. So I'm going to start by giving some kind of catchphrases and then explain why they're important to the overall career pathway mapping journey that everyone has been speaking about. Because our population, well, first of all, our program, the adult education program we have here, we don't have counselors. So I have to work very closely with all of my counterparts here. I have to work very closely with all of the counselors at the other community colleges, districts, adult education schools. I also have to work with the Workforce Development Board. I have to work with, I've been starting to work with the Santa Ana Workforce Center, just so that we can help our students transition into those college and career pathways. We offer citizenship and ESL classes, but we're limited. We have maybe 5 teachers, and then I'm the adult education manager, and then we have a couple of program coordinators. So my main purpose here is to help my students and community members first learn the basic skills they need to transition to college and career pathways. They come from all backgrounds. They are Vietnamese, but the socioeconomic backgrounds are all across the spectrum. So my first kind of catchphrase is what our goal at BPSOS is to have our students go from a survival to revival to thrival. I made that last word up. Because it's like survive, revive, thrive, right? So let me explain what I mean by that. When our students, clients, and community members come to us, they're in survival mode. They come to us because we are like a lighthouse in the storm, right? They come, they know OC, they know that Westminster, Little Saigon is considered one of the largest populations of Vietnamese outside of Vietnam. So they know when they come here, they'll at least be able to get, maneuver the United States in their language and in their culture. So they go from coming here from, Vietnam, all kinds of socioeconomic and, political, hardship. They come here, they survive here first, get their basic needs met. We provide those referrals and services too. And then they go into revival, right? So once they get their basic needs met, they can finally start to think, okay, what do I want? What are my goals? Most of our students' goals are citizenship, which I'll get to my next point with that, but just to be revived, like how do I revive my desire, my passion, how do I help them instill this in themselves? I mean, how do we as a community-based organization work on the ground with these students to promote this revival mentality where, okay, I'm here, I have my basic needs met. Now I can finally start to think like, what can I do next? What is my college and career pathway if I have one? Can I get a better job through learning English and through my citizenship? So that sort of stuff. And then they can get into the thrive aspect of it, which is, okay, now I'm secure in my basic needs. I've thought about what my goals are. I'm on the way to, achieving those goals. How can I provide better for myself and my family, right? So we want to, as BPSOS, in collaboration with community colleges, workforce development boards, strong workforce center, like one-stop centers, how can we all work together to help these students thrive? And that's where this Empowering Scholars program comes in too, because this is the thrive part. Of course, you have all of the steps that we will complete, right? Meeting the students where they are, helping them realize goals they didn't even know they had, going step by step. Imposter syndrome. I mean, I could talk for an hour about imposter syndrome, about our older Vietnamese adult population just being here in the United States. But the point is, with this Empowering Scholars program through Oscar, and I want to thank everyone for all of your help so far, and Stephanie and Angelica and Amanda, everyone here for being such a great inspiration and influence. Because like I say, we don't have actual counselors here. We have to be all of that. So we're still learning how to do that. So there's the survive, revive, thrive mentality, right? Then, like I say, most of our students come here because they want to be US citizens. They're in the process. So I want to take them from the citizenship goal to ownership. So from citizenship to ownership. How can you, after you become a US citizen, if that's your goal, get into the mindset of ownership? I own my citizenship. I own my life. I own my goals. I have the authority and ability and, to ask for help and get the resources to become an owner in my own, journey, right? Because who's writing the story? Do you let other people write your story, or do you write your own story? And so we have to teach our older adult Vietnamese population, how do you, because they're very family oriented, so how do you take ownership of and pride in what you do and how you can provide for your family? And then the last thing I want to talk about is going from refugee to refuge, if that makes sense. So refugee, they come here from Vietnam. A lot of them came over as refugees, political, economic, refugees, fought to get here, right? And I want to help them think of themselves as a refuge, like a light in the dark, right? How can we help our students through the collaboration of counselors and schools and businesses for careers? How can we make them into a refuge, like a safety, a harbor? I'm not sure, however you want to define that, so that they feel empowered to continue on for future generations, right? And then I'm pretty sure everyone here has heard of the fight or flight response, right? So typically when we hear about fight or flight, we think, okay, when we're facing a challenging obstacle situation, we're afraid. So we either like fight back, we are aggressive. It could be like have a negative connotation, or we fly, we run away, we figure out how to do something else. But I want to help our students go from fight to flight. So I want to help our students go from fighting for survival, being here, fighting for their citizenship, learning English to, pass their interview, to flight, go be that shining star you want to be, go do that career, go to that college, you know what I mean? So we want to create pathways through the Empowering Scholars program to provide that foundation for our students, to make sure that they go from survival to revival to thrival, because we've all been there. We all have our own stories to tell. We all have our own journey that we went through with these three things. These things could apply to anyone, but in particular, our population, because it's so specific to older Vietnamese adults who are in Orange County, they could speak Vietnamese and just work in their current jobs and be fine. But we want to give them the opportunity to at least learn that there's more.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jody. Oh my gosh, yeah, you just that whole, I loved the survival, revival, and I think what you said, thrival, or what did you make up of it? Survive, thrive, survive, revive, and thrive, because that is so true, right? And I mean, I relate to that from the standpoint of my parents being immigrants here to this country, and that feeling and so forth. So thank you, Jody. All right, next we're going to turn to the dynamic duo team here of Rachel and Paulo.
All right, good morning, everyone. Is it okay if we could share screen?
Yes, you should be.
Okay.
You should be able to.
Okay. Yeah, similar to Oscar, we're also very visual, so if that's okay if we could share screen. We'll be quick. Don't worry, we won't bore you to death. So we'll be quick. So then so we kind of took it to a different approach. We use ChatGPT to create these career narratives, and we'll also show you like how we actually did that. So moving on, Rachel will talk about why we chose this population.
Yeah, so we thought of the students because oftentimes these students underscore themselves in their experience. As they're transitioning to civilian life, it can feel like starting over again. They go from these high responsibility leadership positions to that experience no longer always being validated in an educational system. And these students bring a wealth of experience to our classrooms and the job market, and we really wanted to empower these students with what they bring to the table. Coastline's very unique in the fact that we are mostly online. We have 4 campuses, but 90% of our classes are online. But our Veteran Center is always filled with students. So we felt like it was a great opportunity to connect with those students more. And as far as recruiting those students, there was an upcoming Veterans Career Summit that we had an opportunity. Paulo was able to pitch and recruit. And then we were able to pair with our director of the Veterans Center to offer a gas card to these students as well to get some buy-in.
Okay. Yeah. So what we did was similar to what Oscar provided, the intake that was provided. We took that and we kind of made it our own. That was more tailored towards the military, like military branch of occupation. So this is stuff. So stuff up here is like what they could already answer on their own. Stuff down here is what we leverage ChatGPT. And we actually I'll share examples later of prompts we use, but literally they would just copy this over on ChatGPT and it'll give the answers for them and they'll just tailor it. So especially with the career narrative, it's super helpful because a lot of times, like, drafting that out, it's hard, but I'm like, hey, let's just leverage AI and see what it comes up with. And we'll show you later how we kind of took this to another level. So here's an example of translating military skills to civilians careers. Here's an example prompt that actually put it in already, where all they got to do is plug everything in. So what are skills gained? If you're this occupation in the military, in the branch, and you're trying to become, let's say, a physician assistant, what are some technical skills gained? Boom. Instead of having to think about it, the answer is going to give it there for you. So here's the recruitment flyer that we used. Also, this they also have a lot of money. That's also the reason why we chose this population. The coordinator, we also have a good relationship with them as well, gave all the participants like $50 gas cards. Who's not going to want to go there? So that's also another reason why we chose that population. Here's our flyer for that. And then Rachel also included also the community cultural wealth there as well. Explained that, and here's like a prompt that we just used. Again, we just leveraged, made their life a lot easier. And all they gotta do is, I'll show you a sample. So it all makes sense, but they drafted their own career narrative. So for example, like if this is something that they come up with and they want to create their career narrative, I would copy this over. So here's ChatGPT. And the prompt we had was write me a 2-paragraph career narrative with the following intake. So I have everyone following so far. So far, all they gotta do is copy what they had so far, copy this over, write me a 2-paragraph intake, press enter, and we'll see what this comes up with. So this is live. So hopefully ChatGPT doesn't crash, because as you know, a lot of people are on it. But so they say, let's say you want to become a project manager. Here's their why. Here's a college major, top 3 values, what branch they were in. They were aircraft mechanic. The skills they gained from military was this. Write me a 2-paragraph thing. Boom. So there, tell a student, give you 5 minutes to kind of look it over, move things around. Don't make it sound robotic, because sometimes ChatGPT is very fluffy. So I mean, you could also put that in a prompt, right? Don't make it fluffy. Boom. And then there. And then they kind of have that as like a starting point. So again, make life a lot easier. So in addition to that, in terms of the deliverables, we use Canva, and this is some of the stuff that we created with. So we actually, again, just copied their stuff, made it pretty, put it on Canva, put some logos on it. Here's some of the students, and here's what they came up with, and pretty cool. So here's some of these things. Yeah, so this Marco is actually a 1st-gen student, so we actually included that part in there. So we're not going to go through this too much in detail, so I could send you all this PDF. But here's some of the student feedback that we also got from students. They loved it. And as they were doing this, we just gave them a Google Doc. So instead of having to like when we were doing presentation, I gave them a Google Doc and be like, hey, just fill all this out. That way everything's live. When we ask for student feedback, you just scroll down, hey, put your student feedback. So we're just able to get everything so easy that way as well. So they liked it, being able to leverage ChatGPT, being able to intake their skills. So one thing, for example, was like, let me see which one. This one right here. Yeah, we underestimate ourselves and our experience. I've been out of the service for 3 years, and the small things you forget. I have more to offer than what I thought. So yeah, so similar themes, so I think Oscar, thank you for sharing your knowledge of the career narrative and being able to draw out skills. I think that's students are getting that from this. So thank you for allowing us to do this. Because at first, me and Rachel were like, oh my God, another stuff we have to do, but benefited at the end. And here's one of our students. We'll take a picture with it. And then now, so again, it created more work for us, because now our veterans coordinator wants us to do that for many of our veterans.
And this is outside our veteran center. So we asked these students if we could share their profiles, because we are so proud of them and the work they put into this and the experience they bring. So hanging right outside our veteran center is an introduction to some of our students. And then as Paulo shared, now we have other students that are interested in getting buy-in, so we can work with other populations on campus and help empower them as well.
Yeah, and when I was talking with my dean, some findings, I found it helpful. I definitely add this component to just use it. I'm telling you, just make your life life easier for your students. You make stuff a lot faster. And then give other colleagues something similar. Another counselor from I think Long Beach saw my story, and she's like, oh, how do I do that? So I told her. She's like, oh, I want to do that for my DSPS students. I'm like, oh crap, like I'm gonna tell Oscar that. So then spreading the work here. And then also I told my dean, and again, more work that was created for us, which is fine. One thing that she talked about was like, thinking about how to embed this for Umoja, Rising Tide, which is our formerly incarcerated, and also our DSPS population as well. So let's stop share. Hopefully that. Anything else, Rachel, that you want to bring up? Say.
I think we just got a question about rapport. Are you referring to rapport with our students or rapport with the director? Here's Rebecca that asked.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm from Compton College. I just like the way that you did with at the beginning, ask the students to report their information about what is it they would like to do with their jobs and so on. It was really good. Could you be able to share that one more time at the beginning?
The beginning slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Paula, can you share that? And then additionally, when we started off this workshop, we asked students, we went around, we met in a group. So Paula and I were together with the group of our 5 students, and we asked everyone to share their why, right? What is your motivating factor? Why are you here? We actually had a student that was, their wife was like due any minute, and that was his why. He's about to be a father. And we kind of all connected on that. And then we jumped into the activity.
Thanks.
This is Rachel and Pablo, this is incredible what you were able to do with the program and leverage technology, right? And I mean, that's what technology is there for. I mean, I took a typewriter to college my first semester. I'm not on a typewriter anymore, everyone, okay? So, but it's about adapting to the technology, and it's certainly the way the two of you use AI certainly facilitates, right? With the career narrative. The one slide that really stands out, the picture where you have the gentleman, the veteran standing next to everyone, his smile to me just comes across where he's not only proud, but there's confidence or newfound confidence. And that is something that oftentimes we don't realize when we go through this training, the confidence that students gain. And so thank you very much, Pablo and Rachel, for this. And I'll come back with some questions here. And again, anyone, if you have any questions for any of our panelists, like I said, put it in the chat, or you'll be able to unmute yourself in a little bit. So appreciate it. All right. Ángel, you're up, my friend. You're up.
Okay, I'm not sure if I can do any better than Rachel and Paulo, but I think that was exceptional. But I will present what I have. Okay, so let me see if I could share my screen. I'm a visual learner, so I feel that being visual is probably the way to go. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay.
Down the bottom, the share. Yes.
Okay, so I have a brief presentation here of what I'm doing. So I focused on the student narratives, primarily because I'm really interested in the student experience and what they're doing as students. I believe Rachel alluded to this matter of the why. So that brings us to that point. Why student narratives? Why do we want to focus on the student experience? So that is something that I really wanted to focus on. Why do students want to do this or that? Because that serves as the foundation as to what leads to a career, a pursuit, an overcoming. So that leads us to this matter of promoting your career story. So it starts with the why. We have a why, and along that path, that trajectory, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be lessons, there's going to be skills, there's going to be traits, and all those things lead to assets. The personality traits are these things, these skills that the student have, right? But we also want to connect that to a journey. So if you follow this visual here, the journey then leads to identifying a position, something that the student would like to pursue, but that's not enough. We have to connect that to a specific, align it with a degree, in this case that we offer at Saddleback College, so that could lead to transfer, graduation, or the reaching of that goal that began with a why. So this is one particular case with a student. Her name is Yolanda. She was a student, or is a student that is an adult student, is older adult. So her why was self-gratification. She spent the better half of a year raising her kids, and now she wanted to do it for herself. That's the primary reason why she wants to pursue medical assisting. And one of her traits is she's intellectually curious, she loves learning, and she's resilient. And I put there neuroplasticity for a reason, because as the student is telling me about her experience of learning, she just falls in love with learning, and she feels like her mind is being opened up. She's able to think and consider things and analyze in a way that she wasn't doing before getting into college. So this opens her mind to say, hey, even though I'm a grandma already, I can still pursue medical assistant. I can still do it. I love the learning experience. I love what I'm doing. And this shows up in neuroplasticity. Her brain, her intellectual capacity is just taking it to another level. Okay, and then we have Tanya. So Tanya is a culinary arts major. So she sees food as unifying power. What do we do in places in, social gatherings? Food brings us together. It brings people together. So that's what she saw as a growing child. She saw that her mother would cook for family and just the family would gather together. It's very interesting that she saw that food itself was bringing people together. And this what made her wanted to pursue culinary arts. So what's her trait? She mentions this, I'm bicultural. I like mixing different cultures, cuisines, and trying new things. Also, I'm very intuitive in seasoning food. So she see that experience, that cultural experience of the family made her wanted to pursue culinary arts. Now, this is a developing story. So as I continue to meet with these students, I'll have more to say. So what does this mean? This is continuing. So if we look at the bigger picture, it starts with a why. So the why leads to preparation. Preparation leads to graduation or degree attainment that was aligned with that specific why. That leads to higher economic status, a better family dynamic, better situation, and that turns into future generations. So a better you becomes a better society for students. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to focus on with this. So what does this lead us? It leads us to why matters. And looking at the why of students, it matters what they're doing. It matters why they're doing it, because this sets off the stage for what follows in their career narrative. So I hope that this, I don't have a full picture because it's still a developing thing, but and even in my presenting, I would say that it is not enough. So then what does that lead us as counselors? So we have this counselor implications, right? And what I saw with the students. Well, number one, why matters. It's a very important piece to start as to why students are doing what they want to do. Also, challenges become defining moments. So when students come to us, they may have a challenge that become a defining moment. And we become the catalyst for them to either pursue a career, a specific major, or a job. Those challenges are for us, they're a golden opportunity to be that one person, that one counselor that makes a difference in their decision. But that leads us also to three. What I found out with the students that were younger, that were coming back, it was the indecision. A lot of time it was the indecision to choose a career that kind of pushed them away from even pursuing college to begin with. So that becomes a real challenge, but also a very good opportunity for us to let them know, hey, it's okay that you are not clear, but we can get clear together. We can work on the process. We can take courses that will help you identify a major. We can explore, perhaps focus on general ed. Notice that what I'm saying, I'm just going through a counselor lens. Lo and behold, I am a counselor. So this is what I'm doing. And then number four, bread over books. Why do I say that? Because a lot of the older students opted to work to feed their family prior to becoming, going back to being a student. The story of Yolanda is a grandma. Her focus was to raise her family, take care of the kids. And now that she has the time, now she can put books over bread because now she has that opportunity. And lastly, the family dynamic. The family dynamic is a very important piece for us counselors. It's not just said and done, come in, this is the major, this is the path, and see you later. We have to understand that there is a family dynamic that is influencing the student's career, decisions, even the challenges. So we have to take that into consideration so that when we're meeting with the student one-on-one, we're able to help the student, validate the student, use this cultural capital, the wealth model, the assets, highlight these things that perhaps no one has, or in this case, we are tailoring that career narrative for that specific situation that they have at home. Okay, and I can go on and on about this, but I would like to close it in with a thank you.
I can thank you here because you also brought up some a different group of students, the gap, the older adult. And again, these are all the examples that all of you have brought are obviously groups of students, demographics, cohorts of students that we engage with, but also showing the flexibility and the adaptability of the Empowering Scholars program, right, with the career narrative. All right, let's move into the questions, okay? Don't get nervous, everyone, okay? It's all easy, simple questions here. Just speak from the heart, okay? I want to go back to our first panelist, to Annette. And Annette, the question for you is, what resources were needed in order for you to carry out this project?
So it didn't take a whole lot of money or anything like that, right? So we had some snacks. Like I said, we used the work experience program as kind of the incentive, so them getting paid. But so we made copies of some of the worksheets for them to work off of. We also did a Google form where they could type in their responses there, so we could collect things easier and kind of put those things together. But outside of that, it really didn't take anything else other than that for us to facilitate those classes.
Okay, which is great to know, everyone. Again, that right, because many of us are limited in resources, whether it's funding, time, et cetera, and so forth. So that's actually great to know here as well. For the rest of the panelists, would anyone like to share what resources were needed from your standpoint? And I'm looking at you, Cynthia, because you're at a traditional community college and so forth. So
yeah, I can talk a little bit about some of the resources. So for my classes, it was all through the instruction side, right? I get paid as an instructor. But I would say the unspoken research is the self-will, having the ganas, right, to try and pursue this and to think creatively and critically about what we're doing and how are the students taking this in? Does it make sense to them? And then going back and either editing again or continuing the conversation. So love labor, unspoken love labor. And then on the career side, the workshop that we're creating with Fritzy as a team, it's just counseling hours. So it's embedded as part of our role, and capitalizing on the relationships that the Career Center has with leaders across campus within our equity programs to try and recruit students and make it a welcoming space. So it doesn't take a lot, but for sure that having the will, the ganas to pursue something and the passion to see it through and ensure that students are walking away with something.
thank you, Cynthia. Definitely that will, that, or as you said in Spanish, las ganas. Okay, thank you. Jody, I want to come to you because you're working again with the Vietnamese population. You mentioned, English as a second language, the language barrier and so forth. Share with us maybe some potential challenges, maybe initially to utilize this program with English language, learners with the Vietnamese population. If there were any, challenges that you could share with us, and how you overcame maybe some of those language barriers.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we had to do a lot of scaffolding. We had to do a lot of explanation to the students. So I initially worked with my colleagues who speak Vietnamese. We have instructors who speak Vietnamese, and we have program coordinators and managers who speak Vietnamese. So I utilized all of their skills and abilities, because they also have one-on-one firsthand experience with the students, specifically my instructors who teach in the classes. So I used my instructors to explain the concept to the students, because not only is this a new concept for us, but it's a new concept for them. You know, they probably, some of my students had never thought about a career, you know, some of them had careers in Vietnam, but the pathway to that career was different than it would be here. So when they come here, some of my students are kindergarten teachers in Vietnam. Some of them were photographers. Some of them had their own businesses. And they come here and they work in nail salons, restaurants, and factories as assemblers, cleaners, janitors. So how can they go from, you know, their careers in Vietnam to, you know, starting from the bottom basically when they get here, and how can they build themselves back up? So we worked, the challenges were obviously number one was the language barrier, but I was able to overcome that with the complete help from my colleagues who have their own personal career stories, right? So they came from Vietnam as well. So they have their own stories, and when they got here, how they overcame their own personal obstacles and rose to success, you know, where they are now. So they were able to relate their stories to the student stories. So that helped a lot. Again, working with counselors in the area, Coastline, Orange Coast, Golden West, they also serve Vietnamese population. So they were able to help me in terms of transitioning, like in terms of talking about transitioning our students to their programs. They come here and they do presentations. They have a colleague who speaks Vietnamese come here and talk to our students in Vietnamese. So the main challenges would be first explaining why, like Angel was talking about why, what is the why? First of all, not just their why, not just the students' why, but the why for this project, right? We have to get the buy-in, we have to get the incentive, the motivation from the students about why this can be important for them. So doing that in English and then doing it in Vietnamese, and then like contextualizing it to their actual, you know, everyday lives. That was the biggest challenge. And we're still learning now how to overcome that. We're still creating their, you know, career narratives, and because we have to first explain what their goals are. So I would say that we've been able to overcome all the challenges so far by collaboration, communication, and contextualization. 3 C's, right? I don't know. Yeah, I've been doing that a lot lately, like trying to put stuff in a box, like just, you know, make steps so that it's clearer for, you know, administration, faculty, staff, to the students, right? Because everyone is involved in this.
You know, Jody, what you mentioned, you reminded me of how when we kicked off today's session about the quote that I had about Steve Jobs, how it's a powerful quote, but you have to contextualize it to the audience and groups. And same thing, this program, you know, the foundation remains the same, but the examples and then how you contextualize it, from what I'm hearing from you, is where it was a challenge, but you were able to overcome those challenges to really make it relevant to the students, the demographics, that cohort that you serve. So thank you, Jody. Paolo and Rachel, I want to come to you, and because, so from my understanding, you have the ability to work with a variety of student groups, but you chose veterans. And obviously, as you can see from the comments, you did a phenomenal job sharing your project here. People love what you did. Why veterans?
Go
So
ahead.
because they underscore themselves the most, not the most, but we have the student traffic at Coastline. So again, Coastline's very unique, as we have 4 campuses, and we're mostly on 90% online, and we have a veteran center that's housed where our student services are. So there's already that community built in, and understanding veterans and their experience within our counseling walls, how they underscore themselves, how even the word like student can be triggering to them. because it's starting over, it's not honoring their past experience. So we felt it was a great group that needed some love and empowerment. And when we talk about resources, the stars just aligned. We had thought of this population, and then happenstance, there was an upcoming event to promote it, tailored to veterans. So we really utilized all of our resources.
And you said something about how the word student is a trigger or can be a trigger to veterans. I never thought of it, but I think it's so important, right, everyone, for us to certainly understand the group of students we're working with, because we all have trigger words. They're all things that trigger. And so yeah, that is awesome. Okay. All right. Pablo, is there anything that you wanted to add or share?
Yeah, it was Rachel's idea for veterans. So thank you, Rachel, for that wonderful idea. And also the profiles was also Rachel's idea to like post it on the wall. I'm like, that's a great idea. My first instinct was like Canva. And I'm not really a creative person, believe it or not. Canva did all the creativity. I just plug everything in. And I'm like, this came out really nice. So it was awesome. And yeah, so Rachel mentioned we had an upcoming event. Also, for those that have taken like veterans training, military, like vet training, where the transition on one of the difficulty for life transition for that population is, well, first of all, the transition is already difficult enough, going from a super structured to an unstructured many times, or like with the with that familial structure military to like sometimes no structure in that way. It's difficult. And also one challenge is also translating their military skills, like because typically when you're military, you have an occupation. So being able to translate that to civilian skills is it's difficult to draw from that. When we were brainstorming, one thing that we also used ChatGPT was like translating that as well. Because I know working with our VRC coordinator, he keeps emphasizing that when I met with him over time. So I'm like, hey, why don't we leverage AI to kind of draw that out and also tie that in with the career narratives? And it was just like it just fit perfectly well. So, and they also have money. So realistically, I know that there's no like incentive involved. Students are just less likely to come. So with all those pieces, we felt like the cosign veterans were who we chose, and it worked out really well.
Yes, no, it definitely did. Well, thank you, Rachel, thank you, Paulo. Uncle, with you, what stands out in my mind is, again, working with the student population where there's been a gap, right? And sometimes maybe a long gap. Any challenges in that you, when working with like Yolanda or some of the students, in terms of like getting the students to really open up and see that the gap that they had can be an asset, or reframing that, right? Their experience, or drawing out what the positive things from that gap year and translating it into now a relevant career narrative that it's relatable to a current job, Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. Even now as working, because this is a developing project that I got going, and the research is ongoing. It's not done. But I found out that there's always challenges for these type of students. Yolanda herself was scheduled to meet with me this past week. Her son was hospitalized. So that was something what resource is very valuable in this kind of work? Time. Time is just so valuable. It's the time to get them in, the time to talk to them, the time to do the work, the time to develop this narrative. Time is so precious.
Yes.
So I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges. And also because of the very time that they have a gap, it's almost like this sense of urgency. What's the quickest way to get to my degree? Quickest way to. So this is why finding a program. And I always tell students, and I hope my colleagues here agree, that if our college doesn't have a fit for them, and there's another college, it's in our best professional interest to refer that student to that program. Not necessarily because I want to keep them. I want them to succeed. I'm here for the student.
Mhm.
So what is, if there's a better fit that, in this case, a full-time program versus coming to us for part-time, who am I to hold the student back?
Yes.
So those are the things, finding the fit, leveraging, beautiful thing like what we're doing here. And when we met the first time, I got a chance to see other colleges and what they're doing. So you become a resource.
Yes.
You need to refer students to others. That was one.
Yes.
The other thing is helping students and helping see it themselves, not necessarily me telling them, hey, you're here, but
Mhm.
realizing like, if you got to my office, you have what it takes to keep going.
Mhm.
So if you were not in my office, then I wouldn't have the opportunity to have this conversation with you.
Yes.
And then from there, also connecting them to other resources, realizing that, hey, even though you took a gap, you can still qualify for the promise because you never went to college. Oh, even though you have the situations, we also have EOPS to help you with this other. Oh, you had some challenges with learning, we have the assess.
Yes.
You had challenges, some students don't know that there's a veteran center.
Yes.
For many reasons. So helping the student realize that there's more that we can offer than just the conversation.
Mhm. Mhm.
And just to highlight some colleges, they have a lot of resources, they have a lot of dinero, they have a lot of money. So if there's a better opportunity for a student somewhere else, I mean, I'm happy to refer, and if they succeed over there, then their succeed becomes by definition my success.
Amen. Amen. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Uncle.
Well, that's great. I got an amen.
No, thank you. Thank you. And everyone, to all our panelists, thank you. Thank you again very much for the work that you've put into it. Thank you for, this serving your students and just overall, for being who you are, because you are a tremendous asset, yes, to your students. So thank you. Thank you. We're going to move on now to Amanda and Michael to kind of, highlight some things. And Amanda, one thing and Michael that comes to my mind here, we do have some K through 12 folks that are joining us. So if there's any comments or anything you want to share with regards to this program as how it might relate to K through 12, please feel free to do so. But yes, so I'm turning it over to Michael and Amanda.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, hearing all this, I'm like jotting down notes, and each of our panelists today have really just inspired. For those of you on, whether you work in community college or K through 12, the hope was that you're able to take this as a plug and play approach. Many of us are so busy in our roles, and many of us are wearing multiple hats. And so the reality is that when we have new curriculum or new tools or just new resources as a counselor, it's really hard to implement because we just don't have the time, right? So the idea is that, one, I want to remind you all that all of the individuals on this project, you can hear and see the passion in the work that they do, and they're all willing to share and collaborate and partner up if needed. So if you find that something could work at your, at your site, at your school, with a program, whatever it may be, please feel free to reach out because, I always say work smarter, not harder. It's so much easier to leverage what's already done and build off it than starting from scratch and trying to navigate yourself. So I just want to remind you all that, the idea is that we really want you to be able to take segments or pieces or approaches or best practices from all of our panelists today to really just implement it in the work that you all do. I had a list of things that I'm writing down and ways that I could incorporate it as different models, maybe with different populations or some with the same ones. So, just keep that in mind, because I always say, as a counselor, you don't want to have a bunch of nice cars in the garage that you don't drive. I want cars that I'm going to use. And so I consider the cars our resources as counselors.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that that metaphor there, Amanda. I'm going to trade in my Tesla for a VW Bug. No, I don't have a Tesla. Okay, I'm Ubering it. Okay, so Michael.
I just am so, I mean, commend every single person on the call. This work is just so rewarding and so amazing. And we know proof of that because of the students' stories have transformed and students' lives have transformed. And it's just amazing to hear about all the work. And this was just a tip of the iceberg. I think the publication that Karen Miles is going to be working on will encapsulate a lot of the other voices that weren't heard today. And it's amazing. It really puts a huge smile on my face. And I think about our initial intent when kind of putting the grant together. And just to read a sentence from our initial grant was to utilize a culturally responsive framework that provides insight on ways to develop students' confidence and self-efficacy in the enrollment to career decision-making process. And the only way that this confidence and self-efficacy can be realized is through what each and every one of you are doing. And that's the one thing that hasn't been mentioned, but it's implied, and it's deep empathy, it's deep compassion, it's listening with an open mind and an open heart and connecting with people. And when you connect with people, that's where they begin to believe in themselves and their story. And it's just, I'm so honored to work with all of you guys and continue to learn. And I cannot thank Aspire Consulting enough, and Stephanie's leadership behind this as well has really been tremendous. And I look forward to the chapters ahead that we're going to continue to co-create. So appreciate all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much.
Karen is returning from a conference in Milwaukee,
okay.
so she's not able to join us this morning. But, you know, I think as folks mentioned, so Karen Miles, Dr. Karen Miles has been working with us on a number of different kinds of publications, as well as, you know, some of the counseling projects. And she is kind of a rare breed because she's worked with workforce boards, she's worked in career services and also counseling. And she actually also teaches graduate courses in counseling. So she's got, you know, a really excellent perspective that she brings to this. So what she's going to be doing is working on a publication that will really be a, you know, kind of pulling together this framework that we've identified around taking theory, taking the cultural competency practices and the examples that you've all developed and shared today, and also then bringing in a piece around labor market information. So she's going to be reaching out, I think, to folks. She's going to be reviewing the presentations, also the submissions that everybody is sending in, and really trying to glean some great examples from that. So we'll be kind of setting up some appointments with you all to, you know, reach out and see if we can get some insights from you to share in that publication.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's going to be the combination that's this publication here. So that's going to be exciting. And you know, as we wrap things up, I do first of all, I'm going to share also our contact info. I know we dropped Angelica dropped in the chat our LinkedIn URL, so feel free to connect on LinkedIn. But you can see here on the screen, you can take a screenshot of our website and you know, information here. And Angelica, if you can also drop in the chat our email address too as well, that'd be great. Okay. So you have it here. But we've got a couple of minutes here, about 2 minutes. Anyone, any takeaways, comments, or questions that you may have, feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Give it here a minute or so. And by the way, we did or we are recording the session, so we will be sharing the recording with all of you here. And then also Angelica, excuse me, has dropped also a few times in the chat the link for your contact information, so we can also email you the recording here as well. But oh, there we go. Okay, some comments here. Kelly, fabulous presentation from everyone. It was amazing. Thank you for, yes, thank you, Kelly. And Olivia, of course, you're welcome. Any final thoughts, questions?
Sorry, I just wanted to say something here while we wrap everything up, because I've I've popped in and out here of everyone's breakout room, and I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I love hearing all of your stories. I love hearing how your interactions with your students, but more importantly, I love hearing about your vulnerability. It's something that I know was definitely lacking in my personal college experience. And so it just brings such joy to my heart just to see how all of you are just so passionate about what you do. And also just how much you understand your students and how much you're willing to meet them where they're at, but again, push them further. I think, I mean, my dad and I have this philosophy that to give the next generation more than what we had. And I can confidently say that everyone on this Zoom call has that same ambition and that same goal, that we are here because we know that we want to help these students wherever they may go, whether that is a 4-year, whether that's straight to a career. We ultimately want their success, and success in the viewpoint of what they want. What is it that they want, and how can we help them get there? And I think it's with that servant attitude is ultimately why this was an amazing success. I know some of us were stressed out. Some of us were like, that's a really tight time constraint there to do miracles. But if anyone could do it, it would be a group of people like yourselves who, are given, a pen and paper, and you guys end up building a boat. And so I really want to say thank you again for all of your vulnerability and your contributions.
Yes, well, thank you, Angelica. And everyone, I think I just been replaced now. I think you just now have your new Chief Empowerment Officer with Angelica Garcia here. She said it very nicely. But no, so again, we're at the hour. I know many of you have to go on to other, things that you need to do. And again, Stephanie, Amanda, Michael, special thank you to you. And of course, to all the participants and the panelists. Love your stories. Thank you very much. And to the rest of you that joined us today, we certainly hope that you got something out of this. And if you're interested, we're happy to reach out to you to learn more and tell you more about our Empowering Scholars program. So thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful weekend, okay? All right. Bye, everyone.